Okay. I want to thank you guys for joining us for the first of what may be the occasional series on contractors. And the reason why I'm doing this, guys, is because, business is a little on the slower side right now with interest rates. But even at today's interest rates, team, I want to tell you, I am getting 600 customer phone calls per month. And I'm averaging 2 loan applications per day, which is nothing. Under normal circumstances, when rates are normal, of those 600 leads per month, and those are the people bold enough to call, even though rates are high right now. But of those 600 per month, I should be getting 300 loan applications and closing at least 150. So this is the onslaught that this series is intending to prepare us for. And one of the first things that's going to happen is I want you to be thinking during this slower time about preparing for your business. One of the things we're going to talk about is how can you automate absolutely everything so you can cover more ground without having to work harder. That's going to be one of our topics. Another one of our, we're going to have a couple of other topics, including expanding to construction to permanent building, i.e. buyers can't afford to buy houses anymore, so they are buying land and we can finance one house and one ADU, among other things. Those loan options are expanding. But to do some and all of this, the most important discussion is being led by my colleague here, Peter Lustig. Peter Lustig runs one of the nation's largest companies of home inspectors, HUD inspectors specifically. HUD inspectors are used for construction oversight. And that is required on some of these renovation and construction loans. Now, if we can use cash, great. We don't have to do construction oversight. But as millennials continue to buy, they're not going to have more equity. So if we really want to expand your business and get full budgets, no bitching and moaning about pricing, these are the guys you want to be. Peter is the guy you want to be prepared for. But Peter's advice is also really great for your business. This is the kind of stuff all contractors should be prepared with for business as a whole. When we do renovation and construction loans, we do vet the individual business company. And so that's part of what Peter's going to be talking about here. And with that, I introduce you to my friend, Peter Lustig.
Thank you, Meredith. Nice seeing everyone. Thank you for having me. So what we'll talk about today is 10 essentials for financially qualified contractors. And I'll jump right in, right? And Meredith, will you be able to somehow let me know if there are questions?
Yes, for sure. And
Okay,
guys,
yeah,
feel free to post in chat. We'll let Peter talk first and then we'll take questions.
yeah, and if you want to stop me, right, I don't mind if these are interactive, right? That way,
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
can stop and answer questions, right, as they occur. So
Mm-hmm.
feel free to jump in and ask any question that you want, right? Or if you want me to clarify something, so
Mm-hmm.
happy to do it. All right, well, we'll jump in. So I'll tell you a little bit about us initially, right? That way you know that what I'm presenting is not coming from anything except experience, right? So we are FHA and 203K, FHA 203K and conventional renovation consultants. In that role, prior to closing, we determine construction budgets on behalf of lenders. Post-closing, we become the inspectors who release the funds as the borrower and the contractor complete the work. Currently, we do national coverage for conventional, and we cover about 80% of the nation for 203K. In 2022, did 600 new projects, 1,400 draws. We have about 425 active sites. I've done 3,000 of these in my career to date. Currently, we estimate and inspect for about $50 million of residential construction annually. The firm has 22 licensed consultants, home inspectors, 6 full-time experienced administrative staff, and then a roster of 150 subcontractors. And again, the only reason that I go over this stuff is just these are best practices that we have seen. We get nothing but contractor bids and interact with contractors all day, every day. So we've compiled a list of best practices / financial essentials that are that you'll want to have in order to be a successful and financially stable contractor. All right, so let me jump in, right? So there's going to be 10, 10 categories, right? The first one is bid format and estimating accuracy, right? We recommend that you choose a simple and comprehensive bid format, right? Don't make it too detailed, not detailed enough. You can break out labor and material if you wish, though you're not required to. Many contractors will just give one price. That's okay. We do allocations where needed, right? The major suggested categories would be lots and grounds, exterior systems, and then roughing and finishes. If you need a Microsoft Excel bid estimating spreadsheet, I give one of those out for free, right? All you have to do is just get in touch with me or Meredith, and I'll make sure that I send it to you. What it does is it's a format of the plus or minus 100 things that you can do to a residential piece of property. So you can use it as a checklist to put a comprehensive bid together so that you're not forgetting anything. With respect to contracts, we recommend that you use a format that's specific to your state. We also recommend that you have a construction attorney write a boilerplate for you, right? That way you're using a contract form that is not only compliant within your state, but also make sure that it protects you in any way, shape, or form that you would wish to be protected, right? Within the contract, recommend that you list realistic start and completion dates and negotiate those with the borrower before signing, that you detail allowances, and I'll cover that a little bit more in a moment. And then what I see many people do is they'll have, let's say, a 5-page contract, and they'll use their bid that has been signed by the client as Exhibit A, right? So all the details to the contract are in writing, and then the scope of the work and the pricing that you're going to get for it, the detail of it, is your bid is attached as Exhibit A, right? And then that is a nice complete contract with no ambiguity in it. Working capital, right? We recommend that lenders have, I'm sorry, we recommend that contractors have adequate working capital so as to not to have to rely on down payments to cover times between cash flow availability and payroll vendor and subcontractor obligations, right? There's no quicker way to lose your crew and to lose your credit than not making payroll or paying your obligations on time, right? And as difficult as they are to get, right? You have to pay your bills, right? If you don't pay your bills, then you're quickly out of business. So recommend that you use some sort of format, and I'll talk a little bit in a minute about how to forecast work on hand and how to do cash flow forecasts, right? So yeah, making sure that you always have enough working capital so that you can meet your payroll and your vendor and subcontract obligations. That's key. And then vendor relationships, right? Try to secure 45 to 60 days credit with your supply houses, masonry, lumber, plumbing, electric, right? Lowe's, Home Depot. Get a credit card if you need to back yourself up, right? And if possible, and this one is really key, right? Pay your bills early. I don't know if I said this, but in a prior life, I was half owner of a 50-person plumbing business in the city of New York. And one of the greatest profit opportunities that occurred to us that we could have is we used our cash flow to pay vendors early, right? Because they were forever looking for money, right? So if we went to them close to the end of the month and we came in with, let's say $60,000 worth of invoices and started offering them, look, we'll pay you today at a discount of, you'd be surprised how much of a discount they're willing to take on that stuff, right? Subcontractor relationships, number 5, right? Have standing relationships with all of the subs that you're going to need on an ongoing basis, right? Mason, framer, plumber, electrician, tile, finish, carpenter, etc. And same thing with your subcontractors, right? If you're looking for opportunities for additional profit, paying your bills early. If you're known to be the guy in the industry who consistently pays his bills regularly and early, you will start noticing discounts that become available more than you would expect. Okay, keep going. Number 6, work on hand. Keep track of your work on hand, right? Projecting forward approximately 6 months. North of 6 months, it becomes a little difficult. And this will help you understand, are you adding 25% profit to this bid? Because when you project the job to start and finish, you have enough work on hand to keep your crews busy, or are you thin within those months and you need to fill a gap in your work on hand? So you might be looking to take 10% profit as opposed to 20% profit, right? This will, again, maximize your profitability within the industry and let you understand, how much you can start adding or not to the bid that you have, right? So you have your labor, your material, your overhead, and then comes profit, right? And profit is the big variable. Can I do 25 on this job or can I do 10 on this job? Well, if my work on hand is full, I can put a nice thick bid in it. If it's not full, well, then maybe I want to go thin a little bit because I want to protect my I want to protect my crews and my vendor and subcontractor relationships. Number 7, cash flow forecasting. Use a cash flow projection system with start and completion dates and revenue and expense forecasts to make sure you don't run out of money, right? And I recommend that you update these at least monthly or when you secure a new job or lose a job. Again, together with work on hand, a good cash flow forecast will make sure that you don't run out of money, will keep your crews going, and will keep you as the A client in the vendor and subcontractor relationships. And just as an aside, right, we've experienced and we see this all the time. If you're the contractor that pays on Thursday and then has more work on Monday, and that's always predictable, you're going to get first attention from your subcontractors. You're going to get the first delivery of the morning from your vendors, and you're going to be able to again strengthen that negotiating position, right? So having adequate cash flow to pay all your bills, as I said before, right, and not be thin on your cash will allow you to increase your profitability in a pretty substantial way. Okay. Change orders, right? I always say prior to agreeing to do additional work, determine how you will be paid. In our plumbing business, our project managers were not authorized to take on additional change order work without either my partner or myself's permission. And why? Because either one of us, my partner or myself, would determine with the client that they were going to be paid, right? If we were the ones that made the credit decision, so we were careful to make sure we extended credit only where we thought we were going to be paid, right? And then also just a simple formula, right? Keep track of the contract balance due, and whether or not you're building the World Trade Center or doing someone's kitchen, the formula is the same, right? It's the original contractor plus change orders minus credit minus the amount they've paid you, and that's the balance due. Right, so anytime that you're needing to calculate that, simple formula, okay, original contract was 500,000, change orders were 50,000, credits were, so that's 550,000 minus 25,000 in credit. So the current contract amount is 525. They paid me $200,000. The balance that they currently owe me is $325,000. Right, and that formula works across all the whole industry. Right, doesn't matter the size of the project. Allowances, talked a little bit before about allowances. As part of your contract, detail all finish allowances, right? So you want to make sure that there is a written understanding within the contract of what exactly the allowances are when your client goes shopping. I'll give you an example on a $25,000 kitchen. For example, you might allocate 7,000 in cabinets, 6,000 in counters, maybe 1,500 in flooring, another $1,000 in sink and faucet, and then you specifically exclude appliances, right? You will now have a clear written record with your client that details the finishes that are included and not included, and avoids an embarrassing conversation in the future that says, "Oh, I thought you were going to buy me a $1,500 stove." Well, no, that's not in my contract, right?
Peter, can I jump in on those
Yeah, sure.
finishes? These are particularly important, guys. My renovation loan underwriters are requiring literally down to precisely how many cabinets there are in the kitchen and range in price per square foot on any flooring, and they will always use the high price to calculate cost. And they say that because those two things have been items of contention for our clients. You know, our clients are imagining a luxury kitchen, and you're
Hmm.
thinking a Home Depot special.
Yeah.
So literally laying out the precise number of cabinets at that price will help as CYA as well.
Yeah, and that part is important, right? You don't want to get three-quarters through the job and all of a sudden the client thinks, yeah, I'm getting, an $80,000 kitchen, and you're thinking, yeah, you're not, right? That's an ugly conversation. Best have it up front, right? Before anything starts, before anything is risked, you say, okay, well, here's what you get for the cabinets, here's what you get for the counters, here's what you get for this. And then they can understand, okay, if they want to spend $9,000 and you've allocated 7,000 for cabinets, well, guess what? 2,000 is going to need to come from either contingency money, if there is that, or from your client's pocket in additional monies, right? So, and that goes back to change orders again, right? That way you know exactly where you stand financially with your client. And the last one is a really important one, right? Because you want to determine your client's source of funds. We've found over time, and on the reno loan side, this doesn't happen a lot, right? I'll explain why in a second. But you want to determine if your client has the $300,000 that they're signing up for. It would be ugly if, again, you're three-quarters of the way through and all of a sudden they run out of money. And now you're owed 30, 40, $50,000 and they don't have the money to pay you, right? The
And
reason, yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry, go ahead,
the
Meredith.
the black hole of lending, guys, is a
Yep.
half-built project.
Yeah.
No bank will touch that. No bank will touch that pretty much.
Yeah.
So and so that's when you're talking to hard money guys and it gets ugly. So just know that.
Yeah. And again, right, if you determine it up front, you will know, and it's not an embarrassing conversation where you're standing around owed money. It's a solid conversation. It shows a mark of professionalism that you are telling them up front, hey, I'm happy to do this $300,000 job. Do you have the money? Now, you see at the bottom, it says with a reno loan, your total payment is in escrow with the lender. So that is why reno financing is so nice for contractors. So that $300,000, that whole pile of money is sitting with cross-country mortgage, uh, with them anxious to pay you because they want to finish the job. So smart contractors we have found over time like renovation loans simply because there is no worry that you're going to be on your last payment looking for 30 to $50,000 because the money's there and the lender is motivated to pay and finish the job. So we've had conversations where I've gotten calls where, hey, Peter, did they finish? Yeah. They do a nice job? Yeah. They get their permits, inspections, and signups? Uh-huh. Okay, we're going to go pay the contractor, right? So, yeah, reno loans have that nice element to it. You're the totality of your contract is sitting in an escrow account with the lender. Um, so that's kind of it, right? I know it's a little bit of a short presentation, but I would also say that we've boiled down the sore spots in the contracting business to kind of these elements. These are the things where if there is pain, it comes on our desk, and these are the kinds of things that you can do to avoid pain and coming on our desks in a painful way. Uh, the last thing I'll say is, right, financially qualified contractors are profitable. They can deliver promised completion dates, and as a result, they spend less on marketing because of referrals. If you deliver good quality work on a promised completion date, you'll likely be profitable, and your work will walk in the door because you're the guy who delivers nice quality on time. And then the last one's kind of a cheeky comment. Yeah, we all sleep well at night, right? So yeah, you won't worry that am I going to get beat out of my last payment? Are they unhappy with me? Right? You do these 10 essential things. You focus on this stuff. Um, I won't guarantee you're going to be a profitable, happy contractor, but it will help you along the way in a pretty substantial way. So that's kind of the presentation. Any questions? Anything that I could repeat? Oh, Meredith, you're on. Yeah,
Sorry. So just to recap, guys, what he's saying, we're actually, if we're doing a renovation or construction loan, you will get a form from the company to fill out. The good news is kind of once you fill out that form, you're pretty much done and in. So this initial construction bid template, yes, it's a pain in the butt. You do it the first time, but then it gets very, very repetitive. And our renovation loan software actually keeps you in a file, not only for our company, but nationally for anyone who uses that software. So here's your checklist of things to do. Fill out the construction bid template as a template that you then finish out later. If you
Meredith,
want to,
can I just jump in 1 second on that?
yeah,
That contractor estimating format, that Excel spreadsheet that I mentioned to you, when
yeah,
you do data entry into the 100 odd line items, it
yeah.
outputs to the 35 required line items automatically.
Oh God, what a
Yeah,
dream.
there's
Okay,
no translating.
good. So I'll get that out to you guys from Peter, and I'll copy Peter in case you have any questions. Get some contract boilerplate from a real estate attorney. Preferably use a local real estate attorney.
Mhm.
But Kevin Fisk at Holland and Knight is affiliated with the Casita Coalition and very involved in this if you need a referral. Working capital, next on your checklist. Go get a line of credit from a local business bank. I would have said First Republic,
Yeah.
but maybe not so much
Not,
anymore.
nope,
Um,
not those guys in Silicon Valley either.
No, but I
Oh,
would recommend staying away from the big banks. Big banks in tough times don't give a crap who you are, and they will readily cut your lines of credit right in the middle of a job, and that's a huge problem.
right.
So set up your lines of credit with a local business bank. Vendor relationships, again, go around, set those up as you get a chance now. Same with subcontract relationships. Tracking work and tracking cash flow and forecasting. What software would you recommend for that, Peter?
We always just use self-generated Microsoft Excel spreadsheets because it's either really, 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 really detailed, more than I need, or basic and not useful. So we did something that we created right in the middle. It's not difficult, right? I mean, you do it cash in, cash out, is net cash, and do it monthly, and just stay on top of it. It's more data in, data out than it is
Mm-hmm.
format, right? There's good stuff for not so much money online, right? But it,
Absolutely. And a lot of people are using bookkeepers to help you enter receipts,
mhm,
Quicken or Intuit, I should say. But those types of QuickBooks, all those
mhm,
basic software should be able to provide reports in conjunction with a bookkeeper. And you can hire inexpensive bookkeepers locally, people you know, or go on Upwork. You can also, find bookkeepers on Fiverr. A lot of times those are overseas, but they're just doing data entry for you. So a lot of good options there to get set up now because we will be asking for profit and loss statements and other things like that when, particularly on more riskier construction type of stuff.
How about when you deal with draws?
Would you like me to go over how we do draws
Yes,
with Reno
please.
loans? Sure,
Yes,
happy
please.
to. Right. So we're first of all we're careful that our allocations within the total are correct and carefully done. Meaning, let's say we have $100,000 job, that the allocations amongst the line items are careful, so that when we do releases, we're not shorting you, or overpaying you for that matter. And then when we step on site, we can release between 0 and 100% for any of the 35 line items. So what we're seeking to do is pay you as much as possible, as quickly as possible, while making sure that the borrower and the lender retain enough for the next guy to step in and finish, should that become a necessity. Right. So we're trying to make sure that you are capable of delivering the completed project in 6 months or less, right? And again, that enhances your profitability too, right? All these things that I just mentioned are designed to make you as profitable and as fast as possible. And what will happen is If you can deliver something in 6 months versus 8 months, and the borrower has carrying cost of $4,000 a month, well, now the borrower has saved $4,000 by using you as the financially qualified contractor. Does that answer your question?
Robert, you have
I'm
a
sorry.
question?
Yeah, kind of, it might be a dumb question, but do these reno loans also cover design and permitting?
Yeah, all soft costs can be included into the, all soft costs related to the construction can be included, right? So if you do septics, you can include septic engineering. You need engineer, architects, you can do those. Our fees can get included. Yeah, architects plan, pretty much anything related, soft cost related to the construction.
A well-done construction renovation loan should only the only out-of-pocket cost should be the appraisal fee. Everything else is either reimbursed by the loan or paid for by the loan. Kareem.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw on one of the slides, and I apologize because I had to take another kind of like an emergency call. But I saw change orders, and I don't know if the other contractors on this call do this, but in my contracts, there's problems unforeseen, correct? So I know that it's good practice to put it ahead of time, but is it good practice? Because I feel like I found as many items that I cannot predict or that are unforeseen in a contract, but somehow always another one pops up, just because,
So I think
it's
you're asking me an art or science question, right? I mean, if you start change ordering for every additional nail, you're going to piss off your client in a bad way, right? But
yeah, I know
however,
what's first, the
you
chicken or the egg, right? So,
yeah,
but
you open up a wall and you see a
yeah,
lot of termite damage. That's going
yeah.
to cost, 2,500 in labor and another 3 grand in materials. Yeah, you should put a change order together for that. My general sense is like somewhere around $250 to $500 is probably a trigger point for a change order. But that's up to the individual, right?
Okay, so you tie it in with a monetary value or an amount then.
Yeah, that's a fair way to do it, right? If
Okay.
all of a sudden, you encounter something that's going to cost you a lot of extra time and material, yeah, you should be charging for that, right? And
Yeah, no,
if it was
that's a good point though. Yeah, that's a valuable tip. So
and if it was hidden behind the wall, right, and you couldn't see it when you put the contract together, that's a really legitimate use of contingency. So I'll tell you in reno loans how we treat contingency. Um, Up to the point where all the finishes are removed and you get a real honest look at what's behind the walls in terms of plumbing, electrical, and framing, um, and also siding, right, or roofing for that matter, anything that's hidden, right? Once you have that exposed, that's the first use of change orders. Once you're done with that, then you can use change order money for any additional items, right? They go shopping for nicer finishes is what happens usually.
Let me add two things, and this will show why, even though these loans initially contractors don't always like them, but a couple additional things as to why they're so valuable. We are required by Fannie Mae and others to add a 10% contingency buffer. We expect change orders and cost overruns, and that's built into the loan amount, which is then escrowed. So don't stress too much about that. 10% of the contingency buffer is built into the loan, and also know that for your estimates, because you don't want to build in too much of a contingency buffer if I'm already quoting it, right? The second thing is this is why I love working with Peter, guys. Is when things are going to happen, we agree with you, Kareem. And it's the job of the HUD inspector, and it's my job to calm the client down. Don't worry, this is common. We see this all the time, especially in that neighborhood full of termites, right? Or whatever it is. Oh, it's going to be $2,000. Okay, that's $13 extra on your mortgage. Big deal, right? And thank goodness we found out, right? Because that damage could have been a lot worse. It's our job to help bolster you up and express confidence in you. Go ahead.
I don't want to,
No, this is great.
monopolize the questions or anything like that, but there was a question that another contractor asked at our last Casita Coalition meeting that we had last month, and it was one that I'm still pondering, because they asked the question, and it was about the $1,000 deposit. Like in California, you're only allowed to take a deposit of $1,000 or 10%, whichever is less, right? So they asked that question, how do you get, like a mobilization fee, or you write it in your contract, but again, that's kind of like counterintuitive, or like what the law says, or so can you answer that or address that?
Peter, you want this one or you
Oh,
want me? Yeah.
I'm not immediately familiar with the $1,000 limit on an upfront payment. I always say to clients that and any down payment is usually for one or two things. It's either to secure a spot on the contractor's schedule, right, which is worth some money, but not a huge amount of money. And then the second one is to use for materials, to pay for materials. And that's a legitimate use, right? So, and I always tell borrowers also that if the contractor is going to spend their time shopping for materials and bringing them to the site and maybe put them under your lock and key in your garage, there's an overhead and profit allowance on that, right? So you're going to expect to pay, if you see a receipt for $500, it's not untoward that you're going to pay $600 for that receipt, because the contractors negotiated vendor relationships and also spent their time. Same thing with going for permits. If you have to pay an expediter or go by yourself to go get permits and deal with Department of Building stuff, well, you should be paid for your time, right? So tell me a little bit. I'm not immediately familiar with the $1,000 in California. Tell me what that is, and you're not allowed to get more than that?
Yeah, so let me go over that. So the way that goes, Kamal, is they're basically paying you $1,000 to get on your schedule. And when the loan closes, upon close, the bank releases 25% of the entire budget as a materials draw. So if you have a $300,000 budget, we're going to give you 90 grand just to go shopping and for that initial stuff. And typically with ADUs, my HUD inspectors usually do about 6 draws. So you want to upfront as much as possible. Within reason, you'll see, usually you've got the materials draw, and then your first draw is for setup, security, porta potties, grading, that kind of stuff. And then your next draw is the foundation. And, so kind of what that goes. But your last draw is going to be your profit. So you by draw 5, you will have covered all your subs and all that. And your last draw is pretty much profit. And there should be no delay. Our underwriters require that you not have a profit line in your business, that you just pad it in with your, we have you separate labor and materials. So that's kind of how we go. So that should give you most of the money up front, but still give the bank like assurances that, yeah, we're not paying you in total until this stuff gets done.
And can I add something to that? I always tell people it's really no one's business how much overhead and profit you're encountering, right?
Right.
Yeah, you have to give labor and material numbers and allocations at minimum on the 35 line items. But in terms of, what you're making on it or not making on it, or what your workers' comp cost or your liability cost, that's no one's business but your own.
Speaking of, if you haven't already, we do require liability insurance and, of course, workman's comp or the state waiver. Also, to cover materials on site, we require the homeowner to provide insurance during construction to protect those materials from fire, theft, accident on site. So your homeowner is required to have insurance for that. And I recommend that in general, even if they're not doing a renovation or construction loan. Any thoughts? Hey, Kamal, you've been in the business forever. Kareem, you too. What best practices do you recommend in these areas? Are there particular banks you're working with on lines of credit? Anything we should know?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to provide some input. And thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. What we do to run our business very carefully and not get into trouble, and knock on wood, we have not got into trouble. We, of course, keep enough operating capital at hand so that we are not stressed and we don't stress out our clients. And of course, we pay our workers on time. So we have a very loyal crew. My crew has been with me from the first job that I started in my business. Just because we take care of them, we pay them on time, and our checks don't bounce. I've been what do they call it? What's the right word? I've been an expert witness in some construction-related cases. So I learned how CSLB goes after contractors in the Bay, at least in the Bay Area. My experiences in the Bay Area. For those of you who are outside of California, CSLB is the Contractor State Licensing Board. So if a customer has an issue, that's the entity they complain to. That's the entity that has our licenses, and that's the entity that has the power to revoke our license. So in being an expert witness in some court cases, I found out that deposits were a big issue with some people. A contractor comes, asks for a big deposit, and runs away or doesn't deliver and stuff like that. So what we do, and this $1,000 deposit, that's exactly the maximum that we are allowed to charge in the state of California. What we do is not to take any deposit. It keeps it very clean. So that way, even if there's an issue, and knock on wood, there's never been an issue against our business, but even if there's an issue, that's one of the questions the state licensing board is going to ask. Did this contractor take a deposit? And by not taking any deposits, we're completely clear of that. So what we've done in our business is we've looked at common problems that people have had with contractors. We've thought out what the CSLB does in case a problem happens, and we run our business so that these problems don't happen. And we can provide more details as well. But that, in short, are some good business practices that we follow, not to get into financial trouble, keep our records very clean, and not do anything that will cause us trouble with the licensing board.
Kabal,
Great.
can I ask?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Sure.
Do you also, as part of your best practices, determine that they have the money to pay you?
Well, we write it in our contract. We look at what the customer is doing. Are they building from savings? Often enough, we connect them to a loan professional. So we send referrals to Meredith, for example.
Right.
Those are ways in which we ascertain whether the customer has money. We've never had an issue where a customer has asked us to start working, and then we find out they don't have the money.
Good.
And-
Kamal, that is great info. Would you be willing to share how much money do you keep on hand? Like, what's that magic number for you?
Well, we do a lot of projects at one time. We are generally building 3 homes and 6 to 8 ADUs at a time. We keep more than $500,000 in cash as operating capital. And because we don't take any deposits, we're basically giving free money to every customer from one milestone until the next milestone. So that requires us to manage our money very tightly. I want to address a couple of the things, if I may. We talked about doing a good job and running an efficient and tight business that requires us to not spend crazy money in marketing. We have not spent a penny in marketing. All our work is through referrals, and that happens because we take care of our clients, take care of all our partners. So that allows us to operate without, doing crazy marketing.
Yeah,
One-
thank you for confirming what I said in my presentation. Yeah, that's it, right? You're good, you're honest, you deliver on time, you're fair to everyone, you keep your crews, you keep your vendors, and you don't have to spend any marketing money because it walks in the front door.
I'm actually going to hire Kamal from now on.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
I do.
I'll just be your project manager. I speak fluent Spanish, so.
Well, Kareem, we've met a couple of times, and
we've talked about we have to have coffee, or lunch, or adult beverages one of these days.
Let me know. I do want to add one more thing that I heard from Meredith, and this is something else that we do as a good construction practice, as a good business practice. We write down in our contract, and our contract's been drawn up by a lawyer who specializes in construction. So we write down in our contract that the customer is required to have, I forget the exact term, course of construction insurance. So that way, in case there's theft, in case there's fire, that insurance takes care of it. The customer doesn't come after us.
Mhm.
So
Is that
those
the
are the
same
type
thing
of
as
things I
builder's
do to
risk?
sleep well at night.
Yeah, is that the same thing as builder's risk? I think we know that as builder's risk.
No, because it falls up on the customer, not the
Yes.
Right,
not on the
right.
contractor. It's not.
we-
It's something that happens aside from any liability that the contractor does.
Right, I know, well, I know builder's risk as the borrower gets it to, not to secure the performance, but to put an enhanced level of
Correct.
liability protection on the property during the construction period.
That's
Correct.
what we
And
require.
we always give them a certificate of insurance, naming them as additional insured.
Right,
So,
yeah.
So thank you, Kamal. I see it on the chat. I'm gonna write that number down. But one thing that I do, Meredith, that seems to be really valuable, whether it's a finance project or not, and you can open up escrow, even if it's not financed. I do that, and what it does is it adds another referee to the project, and that being the title escrow holder or company, and they're always unbiased, right? Either way, they're going to be the referee or the ombudsman in situations, especially when you're asking for draws or percentages, fulfilled, or due on inspections or so on and so forth. But one of the things that it does is it creates a liaison that between the contractor and project manager and the property owner and so on and so forth. So that you have that other filter, but you can also kind of like manage the draws and go perform as per the contract. So like almost like a real estate purchase. So
I have a great title company. That is a wonderful idea. Also,
Orange?
I actually use WFG Title. They're
Okay.
super, so we get wholesale rates, and I'm sure they would provide those low rates for you as well. Great customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It costs about like $1,200 around that to open up escrow, but it's just escrow only, right? They don't do title and escrow. Yeah.
Right. But you raise a great point. I have clients, particularly older people or maybe people who are not in the area, single women, who have hired private HUD consultants privately to help them oversee construction. Someone like me, I walk into a mechanic or a contractor's office and I can just see them going, how can I fleece this woman, right? And my favorite HUD inspector, Ron Cantor, here in San Diego, he's there to say, nah, Meredith, this guy's not doing you right, whatever. Now, I work with quality guys, but so he also knows that by working with you guys, his job is more customer management and reassuring customers that it is being done right. And that can help, particularly when you have unique situations with clients or frankly, even a crazy client. Let Ron deal with it. Let the HUD consultant deal with it.
If I may add another good business practice, I'll be happy to share that with you. This is something else. Yeah, thank you. This is something else that we do to manage client expectations. With each invoice, we have exactly the same calculation that Peter had shared. So this was, again, I'm reaffirming something that he shared with us. With each statement, for each line item of our bid, our typical ADU bid, for example, is 14 line items, one pertaining to each trade plus some extra stuff. With each invoice, we share with our customers what portion of each line item is being invoiced now, has been invoiced and paid before, and is the balance. So with each invoice, we are reaffirming that there's so much balance left on the contract price, so much has been done in change orders. And then the other thing we do is we have 2 check marks which say project on schedule, check mark, work inspected by the city, check mark. So basically with each invoice, we are reaffirming to our customers that we are not overcharging them. We are maintaining good accounting. The work has been inspected by the city and we are on budget and schedule. It really helps calm our customers down.
That's wonderful. Are you using a particular software for some of these invoices and accounting?
I come from the tech industry, so I've done a ton of Excel work. So everything I do is in Excel,
Yeah, me too.
which gives me a lot of
Yeah, I've looked at a
flexibility.
I've looked at a lot of different things and I said, yeah, you know what? I think I'd rather do this in Excel to make it do what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
I started using Co-Construct, which was recently bought out by Builder Trend. I hated Builder Trend, but and I had pleaded when they were telling me, yeah, we're in the process of getting bought out by Builder Trend. Co-Construct said I had pleaded with them just to keep everything as is. So I'm kind of like one of their like charter members, but after being bought out by Builder Trend, but that's I haven't utilized it as much as I should. But hiring whoever said hire a bookkeeper, I've been wanting to do that. That's been on my to-do list for 5-6 years now. So
Yeah, if you want them in the States, Upwork.com, but also Fiverr, fantastic and extraordinarily inexpensive.
Fiverr?
I have Fiverr. I have a personal assistant actually in the Philippines right now. And she's $1,500 a month, and I love and adore her. She's amazing.
Is she through because I'm talking to a company called the VA Hub.
Yeah, not sure about that. Mine is through Night Owl. I would be happy, but they are more full-time as opposed to consulting. But I've had excellent results on both Upwork and Fiverr.
But they don't do the actual banking, do they, or just bookkeeping?
No, they don't do the banking. They do the bookkeeping. It's the kind of thing, and this is where I think talking about automation on the next one, like taking quick copies of your receipts, and so they automatically, thanks, Robert, they automatically go on. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Let me ask you guys, this has been a great session. I hope you enjoyed it. What else would you guys like to learn about in the future?
I think something that all of us would love to learn about, and I know I'm speaking for the others, is how to grow the business. That's really important for all of us, I'm sure.
In terms of scaling your staff or marketing?
Both. What are good marketing practices that are efficient? And then what happens, I'm sure, to a lot of us is we end up becoming bottlenecks to our business. If I had one more person who can do a good chunk of what I do, or if I could automate a lot of things, I could grow my business. But I'm being the bottleneck of my own business. So I'm sure that's the case with a lot of us.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay. I would like to talk about how do you get customers to pull the trigger. I do site inspections, and my conversion rate is not as good as I want it to be. And I know you and I, Meredith, have talked about this because you recently started that program where people can get pre-approved for an ADU project, like in 15 or 20 minutes with a phone call. And I asked, and you said yes, as to when I do a site inspection, can I get them pre-approved for financing?
Yeah, great question.
So that kind of stuff, being a little bit more sales focused, I guess, because I'm in sales, but I'm also, I'm a lot of things, right? But how do we convert? How do we get them to pull the trigger? What I would like to talk about that. So, because I do a lot of site inspections, but you can tell that a lot of clients have that level of uncertainty in the market, and just in general economy and stuff like that. So
Can I ask a question
Sure.
that might help shed some light on this? When you do an ADU in California, I'm assuming a set of plans are required.
Yes.
So I would think a borrower who's been pre-approved by Meredith for what the number is, and if you're in possession of a set of plans, that would be a conversion rate that would be a high conversion rate,
So the
right?
problem,
Because they've spent 3 to 5,000 on a set of plans. They've gone through the whole vetting process for income with Meredith. They seem to have taken those steps, pulled the trigger to be a serious borrower.
we're going to talk, I agree with you, Peter. We're going to talk about that more on the contract. Because I agree, because it's a catch-22 on some of this stuff. Permits and plans take like 9 months here in California.
Really?
We're working on that, but it is a huge challenge. And 70%, according to the UC Berkeley Turner Center, 70% of people who have ADU plans quit after they get permits. They don't build
So
it.
why so long? Is it the NIMBY thing that people don't really want it and that's why they're holding it up, or they're just slow on it, or what?
I think number one,
Uh,
they're exhausted by the bureaucracy, but I
They're
No,
think,
no, why the
overwhelmed.
bureaucracy is taking 7 months.
oh, it's California. And we're working on that as an organization with the Casita
Mhm.
Coalition to shorten it up.
Mhm.
But money is, and Kareem, this is where the follow-up on money. I've had more clients spend 20, 40, 50 grand on designs and permits only to find out that they weren't qualified to build that $300,000 unit.
Yep.
So no, but I mean that's a good point because I know Kamal, you're design build like I am, right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are design build, and I'll share with you in a minute. After you're done, I'll share with you our experience as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, because I mean, you know, to have a good designer too is like to, you know, it's like have a golden egg, right? So it's getting to the point where people start thinking about doing an ADU. And from concept, and then people ask me, and I tell them point blank, you know, how long does it take to build an ADU? And I tell them it's like 2 years. I'm not going to kid them, but that's from concept, from the conception, you know, like from the idea of wanting to build an ADU. So guys like Kamal and I, you know, we go to these site inspections when they first call us, right? And we tell them we're design build, but they, you know, how is the process? How is getting them? Because I do letters of intent all the time. And I tell people, you know, you can get to the permit and then we could make that next decision, you know, in getting the contract. So, and I do all the line items and all the other stuff. And so, but it's from that very beginning. How do you get them to pull the trigger from starting the process? So.
Yeah, money is at the top of that list, and that's why I agree with you. But I think a whole event on this, and I love that you guys are sharing, because you guys are experienced, and frankly, if you're, I know that other contractors, I work with more than 300 contractors in California. I know their pull-through rates are really down. Everybody's talking about this. So it's not just you, it's everybody. But I think that by sharing our experiences, we can continue to grow our businesses. There is more meat out there than any of us can handle. And we'll go through that. But at the top of that list, that world's fastest HELOC is one tool that you can have to pre-approve people on site. Having said that, it is not a perfect tool. It will not work for self-employed borrowers. All kinds of other things. So scheduling time with them for me is definitely one of the best ways to go.
Is that a second loan HELOC too?
Yes, so they're not refinancing. And they
Up
can
to
do it on
500,000?
investment. Yeah, it can do it on investment properties as well. It's one of the few HELOCs.
Is it up to 500,000?
It's up to 400,000.
Okay.
Which I know is tougher in your area, but I have.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like my sweet spot right now. So I mean, it's, you know, it depends on finishes too, right? So
I have 15 different HELOC products. So if they don't get approved on that one, I've got 15 others. One of them goes up to 715,000, 750,000. So there's lots of options, but getting them to talk through. And I agree with Peter. Like once it's like my daughter with a credit card, right? She wants to go buy a prom dress, and the minute I tell her she's got $300 to spend. Guess how much she's spending? It ain't 150, right?
No, $300. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, well, cool. Hey, Peter, anything else you want to say here?
No, I think I'm good. The only last thing is in California, if you're renovating an existing square footage, do you need a set of plans or not? You still do?
Yes, you do.
Even if you're just, let's say you're redoing a bath, you're not relaying out the plumbing, you're just doing new fixtures and finishes, you still need a set of plans.
In most cities, when you look
Yeah.
at the city's websites, they generally say you need a permit if this, then this. And of course, especially for bathrooms, they want to make sure the showers are inspected and waterproof properly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, and does that take 7 months also to secure those permits?
No, it's quicker.
Yeah, I would think so, right? So
That's over the counter.
To answer the question that was out there before, right? How do you pull the trigger more? If you focus more on stuff where zoning isn't involved, I think you get a better pull through rate on that stuff.
We're mostly focused on accessory dwelling units, granny flats,
Yeah,
and that, I got to tell you guys, is going to be the sweet spot for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I
You're
agree.
in the right business.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to double or even triple our housing stock in California and nationally with ADUs. That is the plan, and frankly, it's the only way to grow.
Meredith, let me share something with you that I did with another lender up in Napa not so long ago. A prefab ADU. Draw number 1, material draw to the ADU manufacturer.
Mhm.
Draw number 2 for the site prep. Draw number 3 to set the unit. Draw number 4 to close it out.
That's right.
Worked
sounds
very,
right.
very nicely. The GC was very happy, and the GC sold the ADU.
Good. Good.
Yeah, worked very nicely.
Yeah. It's really exciting what's happening here. I will set up these other events. Thank you guys for coming, and we'll continue to have this conversation. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care.
Thank you so
Nice
much. Take
meeting
care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.